Hey, I'm Adam Cook. Welcome to the Bite Britain podcast, a show dedicated to interviewing the most successful restaurant owners in the UK, learning about what goes into their incredible menus, but more importantly, what it takes to run the successful restaurant in this day and age. Today, I am joined by Ben Thomas, owner and founder of the Dough Fry Pizza restaurant in Cardiff. Ben has spent his life perfecting the craft of dough and pizza making, eventually leading him to follow his dream of opening the Dough Fry in June 2017. The Dough Fry has fast become one of Cardiff's most highly regarded pizza restaurants, with a number of awards and high-profile recommendations under his belt. So let's start by firstly welcoming you to the podcast, Ben. And I just want to sort of start by just hearing a little bit more about you and kind of what led to this incredible obsession that you've got for pizza. Where did it all start?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Adam. It's great being here, of course. Well, to be honest, I mean, it's born from when I was a kid, if I'm honest. I grew up, I was born in Wales, but I grew up in Switzerland for my younger part of my years. And then when I was a kid, because of the change of country, I think I was a bit of a fussy eater and I wasn't quite used to the Swiss food, but pizza was my staple diet. That's what I ate. But it was, I always remember it was the day when I was 8 years old, and we went to this place called the Caminetto, and it was a place in a place called Chaux-de-Fonds, and I remember eating the pizza, and I said to my dad, I said, "What's different about this pizza? It just tastes different. It tastes so good." And he explained to me it was made with a firewood oven, and it just blew my mind. I was just like, wow. And so then obviously we kept going there, and obviously then I got to see how it was all done, and that's where it sort of took on from there, really, if I'm honest, the love of pizzas, to the point where,
and that was in Switzerland that you had
in
that.
Switzerland, yeah, in Switzerland,
right.
Yeah. In Switzerland do some fantastic pizzas, some really good pizzerias. And my grandfather had a chain of bakeries in Switzerland.
Right.
So we grew up I grew up in the family business of the bakery. So, I lived above the bakery. So it was day and night with the bakery and the shop, and then I would help out and stuff. And then eventually I asked for a recipe off my grandfather, and then I took the recipe and I started making it, and he showed me, and it became a hobby, really, more than anything.
And how old was you then? Was that when you was?
I started cooking when I was 10.
Oh wow!
So,
wow!
Yeah,
so you were really
I started cooking when I was 10. It was literally just a passion of mine, food and stuff, and
brilliant.
it was like everybody, I suppose. Everyone loves food. So yes, it was that really, and I sort of took that, and because it was always there. Don't get me wrong, some of the stuff I made was ludicrous. I mean, I remember I didn't, but it gave me one time, because the oven was so hot, for the baker's oven. I remember I burned this thing. It was so crispy. It's like I made a new compound. Do you know what I mean? It was that.
Wow.
But no, it was kind of that's where it all started, and that's where I learned a little bit, and I enjoyed it, and then I realized that I wanted something that I enjoyed for myself more than anything. So I had a specific taste for it, and that was that. So, for the last, I'm nearly 40 now. So for the last, since the age of 10, 30 odd years, I've been sort of developing and crafting this hobby of mine, and the passion I have for pizzas, and, wherever I go will be a pizza. But my background was sports, professional sports. So I trained elite athletes in sports.
So what exactly did you do?
I was a strength conditioning coach. So I trained worked in rugby, football, tennis at a high level, Premiership.
Oh, wow.
A2 finals, all that sort of stuff. So that was a big part of my life for a long time. Fitness, just complete fitness. And the whole food thing was a complete hobby, basically.
Okay. So it was just something you just always were just doing in the background, cooking.
Yeah, if I hadn't gone into sport or played sport and then gone into sport as a work in sport, I would have become a chef, 100%.
Got it.
So it was all that. So it was kind of like in sport, a lot of part of that is nutrition. So it was kind of like both combined a little bit. Obviously, I wouldn't be telling my sports athletes eating pizzas every day. But the thing is, though, you can eat it if you're an athlete, but you just have it at certain times. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you just got to time it right. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's basically it in a nutshell. A little bit of background on myself, and so I moved back over from Switzerland because I went to school in Wales, and obviously when I was traveling the world was on the tennis tour, and then I came back to Wales met I had, set twins with my partner. And then obviously I grew a bit bored of the sport, if I'm honest. I felt like I achieved everything I kind of wanted to achieve. And it was a friend of mine who said, listen, your pizzas are banging. I said, why don't you just start making your pizza? And I was like, I said, yeah, man, because it became a family thing, you see. Every Boxing Day, I'd make pizzas.
I see, right.
Yeah, and so it became
that. You were like the pizza chef of the family.
Yeah. And then so I bought a small little oven, which I called Phil, and then I bought another oven called Eric. And I named my ovens. They got bigger and bigger and bigger as the whole process went forward. And it was just funny that was. But so he said to me, listen, why don't you, just give it 6 weeks, So we got this little pitch, which we went for down the beach, which is a place in Wales called Ogmore by Sea. Got the pitch, and then I wouldn't sign the contracts for ages because I was just still umming and ahhing, and I thought, I'm not sure about this. What do I know? The question is, what do I know?
So you had that kind of like imposter syndrome, effectively, like.
Yeah, I'm a risk taker, or I've always have been, but I was still a bit like, oh, come on, I've trained my whole life in sports, I can't be like doing something completely different. But he said something to me which really, and I still resonate this from today. It's the passion. He said, when you talk about food and your ingredients and your pizzas and what you want to put together and your names, he said you just light up inside.
Yeah.
You really need that, and basically, and that's what it was really. And I said, oh, do you know what? What's 8 weeks of my life? I can always go back to what I used to do.
So how long ago was this that you made this?
This was 2016.
Okay.
So it was the summer of 2016 we got it. Yeah, that'd be right, because it was a year later then we opened up the dough thrower. Mm-hmm. So it was a little thing called Surf Shack Bay. It was called Surf Shack Bay. Little small oven. This called Eric. One pizza.
So Eric was still very much part of the family at that point.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. And then gazebo from eBay. I mean, my mate who made me come and do it came with me. We did it together, and we're like a Chuckle Brothers. You know what I mean? I mean, it was just like smoke bellowing out. Do you know what I mean? It was
a similar story myself. Actually, I had it when I started a catering company in a very similar way, just sort of like two mates sort of trying something that kind of grows arms and legs. But that's really incredible. But it must have been quite a big decision then to kind of did you kind of drop all the sports stuff, or was you doing this?
I dropped everything. I literally just went for it. Like, do you know what I mean? And it was lucky as well, because I spoke to my second cousin. He lives in Madrid, and he happened to be over in the UK. And he said to me, listen, I'm always looking for investment ideas, because he's a retired investment banker. And I said to him, so I rang him up. So, I got this idea about this pizzas. And the first thing he said to me, he said, well, what's your edge? And I was like, what do you mean? And he put me on the spot, because I thought I was kind of one of those. So I was like, oh, all right. So I had to explain to him, and he's like, oh, okay. I had no interest in it, if I'm honest. It was one of those situations, but he still got involved because we're family. And so he came down and helped me a couple of times on the beaches to begin with and stuff. But on the first day, when we were going back onto that, when it was the Chuckle Brothers situation, this guy came up, and he was hungover from Newcastle. I'll always remember him. And he knew a little bit about firewood pizzas and stuff, and he had an oven himself and tasted, and he just went out. I said, wow. He said, that is absolutely insane. And I was like, and then it's sort of like the feeling I had from that. I was like, that's not my family saying, oh, my friends, you know what I mean? It's somebody completely.
That's right, yeah.
And then we sold out in 2 hours. And I was like, so I thought, what a great little thing going. It was a great thing because it was a good summer. But what happened was the difficulties of that whole experience of the beach was hard work. I felt it got to a point where I did question myself what I was doing, because I felt I wasn't making pizzas and selling pizzas. I felt like I was a removal van, because I'd set up in the morning, gazebo out all by myself, take everything out the van, set it all up, get the fire going, wait there when possibly there was nobody there. It was, maybe one person for the whole day, because it wasn't a busy beach unless it was a weekend sunny. Pack it all up. Then you're dealing with the external elements of the winds.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things which you would expect to think of when you living in Wales, that you buy a beach where there's no shrubbery and it's just wind.
That bit isn't written in the nice story.
Do you know what? It's things you just don't think of. It's just things you just simply don't think of. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'd go down there, couldn't set up, and I'd, bear in mind, I've been up till 3 a.m. making dough, rolling dough, and then come down not to be able to set up. So it became it came to a point where, you know, I spoke to my partner about it, and I spoke to Pete about it.
So it was doing well though at this point. He was doing.
Yeah. Listen.
It was just there was just though you had those natural quiet times and just
the natural quiet times, but it was
down with rain and whatever.
Oh, all of that. I went through it all of it. But the feedback was phenomenal, and so we felt immediately that we had something. And I always remember when Pete came over and he helped me. He stayed with me for 3 weeks and he helped me out a little bit. And he had one of the pizzas for the first time. He said, "Ben, I know what you're talking about now." I said, I'm not a big fan of pizza, but he said, "But your pizzas are absolutely delicious." I said, "Yeah, you know," and that was back then, and now like they've gone up a level now again, because obviously as you progress a little bit. But it was then, so we knew we had something, and we had a product, and it was and there was getting a bit of a buzz going on about it.
Yeah.
Problem was that it was coming to a point where what we're going to do in the cold times. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with the UK, right? You have to take, you know, we haven't got the benefit of living in LA. You know, there's it's very seasonal.
Epic, you know what I mean? Oh, those are the days. Yeah, you know. But you know, it was one of those, and it was a difficult decision to what do we do next? Because we'd invest in time and money because we bought a bigger oven on a trailer.
Right. Okay. So at this point, you're invested in, you know.
Oh yeah. We invested. Yeah, we invested. You know, we bought a bigger gazebo. We got logos done. We, you know, Surfshack Bay. We bought a trailer. Which we picked up at in Colchester. Drove all the way up there to pick it up, which allowed us to cook 6 pizzas at a time rather than 1.
Massive step up, yeah.
Yeah, so we stepped up because the idea was, well, okay, so we got something here, but now we want to do the food festival. So that was the idea of that and the food festivals. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we had this pitch for 3 years, basically, down in Ogmore by Sea. So, and it's a good pitch. It is a good pitch. It's the problem is, it was just too many quiet times, and the wind was just horrific. Do you know what I mean? You could one time the gazebo went up in the air, and I'm literally, it took me off my feet. Do you know what I mean? I mean, can you imagine that? Like, you know, death by gazebo pizza maker.
Yeah. That's not really a claim you want in your insurance, is it?
No, not at all. So it took us to the next decision, really, the next part of the whole process. So we sort of said, right, what we're going to do. So we went down the food truck idea. Let's get a food truck, because it allows, it means I can go in any weather and any time, and it makes no difference. We can sit up, park up, bam it out, get the tables and seats out, and all that sort of stuff. Looked into that, and then we looked at the size of the oven, and then we looked in the size of the truck. Then have to do a driving license to drive a big Arctic load lorry.
Right.
And it got to the point, and we spoke to Matt, who sold us the oven, you know, about conversions and stuff. And then it sort of started escalating to 45, 50, 60, 75 grand just to get this stuff going. Do you know what I mean? And we were, you know, like we didn't want to go back, so we just and ahhing. And I'm a big believer. See, my business partner doesn't believe in this, but I'm a big believer in this. That things happen for a reason. That you put yourselves in situations, and something comes from it because you're being constantly proactive about it.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, absolutely. You know, like it's like, I can't remember, there's a saying now, if I try and say it or butcher it, but it's something about, you know, just constantly putting that effort in place. You know, that's when luck's when, you know, effort meets opportunity, basically.
Yeah, of course. Like, you know, don't get me wrong. You want to go to the moon, you got to work hard to become an astronaut to get to the moon. You know, that's not. You know, just because I want to go to the moon doesn't mean I'm going to get there by luck. You know.
That's right.
You know, but so it was a bit of that, and it was so happened. What happened? I got so busy down the beach that I couldn't make the dough by myself all the time. So there was a baker's in Cardiff that I went to, Pettigrew Bakers, and they made my recipe for me.
Right.
So I know them very well. I'd go down, pick up my dough, and then off down to the beach. And then 2 doors down, there was a place that was available for rent. And then I just thought to myself, and my mate Alex said to me, "There's a place for rent. I know the landlord." And so I immediately just sort of thought to myself, "Do you know what? Something just seems right about this," without even thinking about restaurant or this and that. Do you know what I mean? And there was a curveball moment, like, and because I called up Pete and said, "Listen, I'm going to throw a curveball to you." And he goes, "What?" And he said, I spoke to my wife, Sylv, and I'm going to throw a curveball at you. And so Sylv's she's an accountant for a big German company over in Spain. And I said, "You go first." And Pete said, I don't think this food truck's a good idea, mate. And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to say the same to you. I don't think it's a good idea." So then I didn't know what he was going to say next, you see, because I think we should pull the plug. But he said, I think we should do a restaurant. And I was like, I said, funny you should.
Okay, yeah.
Off the phone to a landlord about a place. So we did a little bit of research, probably not as much as we should have done, but we did from the area. And I knew the area anyway very well.
I suppose that's an important thing, isn't it? You know, you've gone into this, but quickly, I guess, some would say. But yeah, this is an area that you're very familiar with, right? So you know about where the good places are. I think that's really important, isn't it? When you look.
It was a bit of a strange one because I knew the area. Because my mate, Alex, who's the guy who helped me sort of change my career as such. He lived in the area as well, so he was always banging on about it, and I kind of knew it, but I always remember the set. Basically, where it is like a set of shops, it is. But I always remember the shops changing every bloody 6 weeks.
Yeah, that's always a scary sign, isn't it?
Feels like. So, and I always remember when we were doing the shop up, the restaurant up, we'd have people come in. Oh, good luck. Nothing ever lasts here. It was like, it's like you're saying good luck, but you're saying you're gonna fail. Yeah, nice one. Yeah, it's kind of one of those,
Yeah.
But yeah, so we decided to go guns blazing, and that's basically how the sort of the whole process started.
So that was so I guess really, Tom, because what I want to try and understand is where the inspiration to open a restaurant kind of came from. But it sounds like it was almost like quite a natural kind of progression based on, you sort of trying various options of delivering your food to people in the food industry, and stumbled across that as the most obvious kind of next step. Then, so did you go into when you was doing the stall? Did you go into it thinking stall, that's a stepping stone to getting a food truck, to get in the restaurant, or was it did you ever think that was what you wanted in the end, or was that something?
No, I mean, listen, the restaurant didn't even cross my mind, to be honest. The idea was just doing food events and food festivals, and because I've been to loads of food events myself, and I thought they're quite quirky, quite good. But I realized straight away, these food festivals and stuff, they're hard work, man. I mean, I take credit off to
I've been there, yeah.
Any person who works in that industry, there's something about them, and like I'll come back. It has to be passion, because if you haven't got the passion for it, or for what it is you've got, or a product, then you're going to fail straight away.
Yeah, well, I think even with what you've done, really, I mean, if you wouldn't have had that passion for your pizzas and your food you're creating, I mean, you'd never have done any of this stuff, right? I mean, so those days when it's pouring down with rain at the stall or whatever it is, that's probably that passion's what got you through. That's the only thing.
Yeah, madness. It is. And you know what? It's one of those things like the staff that I have now, just they don't know me as that. They think I've got a nice little. They've joined. I've got a nice restaurant. They do. They have the hardships of wearing this started from the beginning. And that's the unfortunate side of it sometimes with staff, that you'll never ever get that from staff members after they've been from the beginning for the hardships. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's a very different thing as well, being the owner versus a staff member as well. I think 100%. That's a thing as well. As a business owner, I think that's really important to understand the differentiation. There's a reason that you're happy to work 2 extra hours during the day. This is someone who wants to pick their jacket up as soon as the
your 9 to 5 guy kind of thing.
It's a different thing, but yeah, I mean, I think that's where a lot of business owners slip up sometimes, is they try and sort of hire everyone with the same brush they tar themselves with.
100%.
That's not often the case. But so getting into your food then, that's obviously a really important thing. One of the key thing about this podcast is getting into what it actually takes to run a business. But we've got to talk about the food, and we've certainly got to talk about your food. Your pizzas look absolutely incredible. So the inspiration for all of it, for your menu, I mean, where does it come from? Are these things that you've been trying for a long time? Are these things that you're often continually experimenting with? I mean, where do you get?
I mean, it's one of those things. I've got a knack for understanding what goes together and what I think would work well. And I understand, and something I've noticed about some of the guys that I have, my chefs, they're very good chefs, but they don't quite understand what British public want to what they think they want, because there's no disrespect to them. And I've been lucky, see, my life. I've traveled the world. I've eaten in a lot of different countries, and I've worked in different countries. So that gives me an element of a bit of knowledge from that. And I do a lot of research. I'm constantly reading stuff. I spend a lot of time on Instagram looking at other pizza makers, other food guys, pairing ideas, online recipes, the top chefs, the local chefs, and I speak with staff, and that's generally what I'd say. I have a philosophy, a bit like what I had in sports. I had a philosophy in how I train in athletes, individuals, and I've just utilized what I did to do that in this way, but with the idea of what I love. So, one of the things that's, my partner always talks about is my tomato sauce. Every time I make a tomato sauce, she absolutely loves it.
Right.
Because I'm so passionate about tomatoes and the different type of tomatoes, what they give you. That's why our tomato sauce, we do it very differently. We use a blend of Spanish tomatoes and Italian tomatoes. And, for me, the Spanish ones that we use, the marinettes, they got the same, for me. Everyone talks about the San Marzano tomato being the almighty San Marzano. Don't get me wrong, fantastic. I would love to have them, but you got to price things up as well as a business. But I actually personally think the tomatoes we use are better than San Marzano because they're smaller, juicier, and they're not so sharp. So when you cook them, so like I've had chefs come on trials and they think I put sugar into the sauce.
I see.
And I'm like, no, so that comes from the tomatoes. They're like, wow, really? Yeah. And it baffles them because and there's a combination that I use on that, and that comes from trial and error. Listen, there's times when, growing up, I just thought, I'd be bigging myself up. I made a wicked sauce today. Come up, I was like, oh man, what have I done to that? You get overexcited, especially wines. That'd be nice. I put a bit. So a lot is you have to have a bit of trial and error. Do you know what I mean? Tasting trial.
You kind of got to screw a few things up before you get to the gold.
And there's certain things I remember, like when I was a kid. One thing with that pizzeria that I used to go to as a kid, the Caminetto. So an inspiration. I always remember that the smell of oregano hit me every time, and because what they used to do is they sprinkle the oregano right at the end before it gets served, and I used to love that. And so then so I'd start looking at different oreganos, and then if I found actually Sicily's got the best. Sicily's got the best of most things, but Sicily's got the best oregano. So we use the branches, the dried branches, because the flavor and the sweetness is just out of this world. I mean, the smell. So you can imagine it's not just about the taste; it's about the smell you're getting from it. Do you know what I mean? Wafts up your nose. It's kind of like it's what you want. It invites.
Absolutely.
If it looks good, smells good, you're gonna have it, and that's kind of like a bit like that. So it's. And then obviously in the day and age we live in, I also start thinking about, what do people want? People eat less meat. People want certain meats. People like fancy meats. People don't fancy meats, So I kind of did my menu a little bit differently because I chose my menus, your pizzas, which your section of your pizzas, which is just your margaritas, your NY, your pepperoni, your steak, your classics, and then I call them the Benito's choice. And I started doing that from the days on the beach because I'd say it was my choice of what I fancied for the day. So it became the special of the day. So then when it came to the restaurant, it was the Benito's choice. And it was. So
the Benito's choice is your more experimental sort of side, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit. And also there's a bit of background to it, you see, because so there's a story behind it. So the Greenpeace, for instance, is because my father's one of the founding members of Greenpeace when I was growing up. So he was always away on the Rainbow Warrior and stuff. So I wanted to do a pizza, which was because my mother, she's a vegetarian. So we did a cashew ricotta.
Celebrating your parents, basically.
Yeah, so we did a cashew ricotta, which is of vegan vegetarian, and some pickled onions, and trying to make it look like the Rainbow Warrior. And so I call that the Greenpeace. And then we had the pizza called the Calabria, which is basically Nduja sausage. And the reason I call that is the first time I had spice when I went to the region of Calabria. So it had a bit of a background on that. But as the restaurants evolve now, the producer's choices change a little bit. So like, for instance, the Flaming Goat that we have now, that's something that we developed in the restaurant. The goat, the chili honey. And that is that's probably one of our best-selling pizzas up there, obviously, with the standard margarita. And that's basically where the influence comes from a little bit. So it's things like that.
Are you doing a lot of cooking at home, or is that you just too tired to do?
So my partner, I've been with her for 5 years now as an example, and she's only cooked for me once.
Oh, okay, right, okay, yeah.
I do all the cooking. It's I've never liked buying stuff, and obviously I come from a health background, fitness background.
Yeah, of course. So you've always been used to having that time in the kitchen.
And I cook a lot, and I understand what's what. And actually, a lot of the stuff that we cook in the restaurant is very healthy as well. I use pink Himalayan salt instead of normal salt because there's a better sodium, better for you, better flavor. And we use a high quality pickwild olive. So I that's one thing I'll say is that is pizzas getting a bad rep sometimes for the healthiness of it all, but the clean sort of good products, good quality products, and that's something I would never scrimped on.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is that that's one of the things that struck us about what you're doing, is you do seem in touch with, a lot more of what's actually important to people these days.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I think, this is a really exciting time,
Yeah.
restaurants, to be honest. That's kind of one of the sort of core pieces of inspiration I had to start this podcast, because I think we're seeing, people like yourself coming in, starting up a restaurant and being able to adjust and adapt to the current trends much better than some of the well-established older restaurants that have been there perhaps a long time. Either they're ignoring these trends and they're thinking, they've got this, they're so up here that they don't need to worry, or there's just so much red tape in these bigger organisations that they can't flex and they can't adapt quickly.
I think so. I think I'm completely right on that.
And I think it's a very interesting time, and it seems that the trend, the desire of people is now, where maybe 10, certainly 20 years ago, you'd have gone with a household brand, a household name. You'd have gone out to a chain of restaurants like TGI Fridays, or do you know what I mean, to someone's birthday. Yeah. People aren't as interested in those kind of restaurants anymore. People want the story behind the brand. And I think social media had a part to play as well, because you're able to tell, your story online and stuff, and people can buy into you a lot more as a brand more easily than they used to. Yeah, traditionally you'd have to just hope that someone saw you in the local paper or walked past or something. Whereas now you've got all these other ways to engage, and really it enables the sort of smaller, more agile startup food brands to actually come in and really cause a lot of problems for these older brands and these more established brands. And I think, like, for a customer, as a food business customer, that's really exciting. I think it means there's so much churn now in the industry. But tell me a little bit more. So just going back onto your menu, like what's the most exciting menu item? What's the most popular, should I say, the most popular menu item? What's the thing that gets ordered over and over again?
Our most highest selling pizzas are the Benito's Choices all the time, and the specials. We do a special every week as well. We do 2 specials every week, and we do a special starter. So I mean, the Christmas menu we just done now is had a lot. We launched it last Wednesday. This Wednesday just gone, sorry, and that's just been phenomenal. Do you know what I mean? So obviously you tuned it up for the Christmas period. So we got Santa's Philly cheesesteak, we got Rudolph's Winter Warmer, the Angry Elf, and the St. Louis Christmas Jingle. So, and funny enough, it's still I'll talk about the St. Louis one, because I was going to call it the New Orleans. I made a jambalaya one time, and I was like, wow, this is banging. And I thought, that would work really well on a pizza. So we use a really high grade chorizo, like for the Bellotto, where the pigs are only fed with acorns.
I know that one. Yeah, it's the best.
And we use that for the Iberico. So again, it's like in Spain, we had some Spanish come in, because a lot of our products are Spanish. I was told by the biggest sort of Melvico, which are big Spanish suppliers, and we're probably the most Spanish influenced pizzeria that he's known in the UK. And because
is there a reason that you've gone specifically for Spanish stuff? I mean,
my grandfather in Switzerland was Spanish, from Barcelona, and Pete lives in Madrid, so he's been there for 10 years. But I've always had I'll start with the dough recipe, for instance. So I was very particular when I was making my dough about the olive oil that I put in it. I wanted something that gave me a little bit of a kick and a little bit of a picante taste flavor. And that's when I knew about the Picual olive. And I used to use for myself as a hobby, the highest grade of Picual. Do you know what I mean? You're talking, super expensive. So when I was told that in a restaurant that's not going to work, my heart nearly bled that I had to try. I was like, what? I said, there's no way. I said, no, I'm not having this. Luckily, I found a supplier that can give it to us. Because I just think there's just things from Spain are just fantastic. The Serrano ham that we have, I prefer it over, the Parma ham, even though the Parma ham is absolutely delicious. But a 24-month Serrano ham, we put that on the Johnny's pizza, is so good. And the tomatoes and the olives and stuff. You go to Spain and you just go to the supermarkets and it's just fantastic. I mean, the peppers, they're ginormous.
Yeah, it's a lot different to the UK.
You just can't fault it. Like, don't get me wrong, Italy has is that, but Italy's Italy, and it's fantastic. And every time I've been there, I've loved it. There's just probably more of an influence because maybe personal influence. Well, that's a good question. Because I just think, me personally, I think there's a bit more to it than the Italian side of things. But
Yeah, and I think it's important to be prepared to put your spin on these things as well. You know, if you just went and got the same old Italian ingredients that every other pizza restaurant gets, that you know.
Yeah, of course. And then, do you know what? Actually, you're probably right there, actually, because there is a bit of that. Do you know what I mean? Because otherwise you just become the norm. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
And I've never, all my friends say I'm nuts, and I've never been normal. Do you know what I mean? So why am I going to start now? Do you know what I mean? And I like chopping and changing and using things, and I'm very specific in details and stuff, and things have to be done a certain way, you know. And that's probably why I use those sort of products, you know. We use Italian products as well. Do you know what I mean? It's not just that, but you know, sure. if I took my dough recipe to Naples, I'd get beaten. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They wouldn't accept it. But you know what? I'm not trying to be. People say, "Are you trying to be Neapolitan?" I said, "No, I'm not trying to be Neapolitan. I'm not trying to be a New York style pizza. I'm Benito's pizza. They're very different.
Yeah.
I've got my own style. I do my own. So sometimes we've had chefs come in, they don't get the concept of it because it's like, we don't do it this way. We've never done this way. You sure you want to be doing that way? I've had chefs trying to change my recipe. I've had chefs trying to change my tomato sauce because they feel they know better. Now listen, this is not ego. When it comes to learning, and if somebody's going to give me advice or so they can do something better, I'm always going to do that in sport. If someone's going to do something to achieve the same goal but do it better and quicker and more efficient, of course I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
I have done, and I did do in sport. So I'm not going to change my ways in the food industry because it's my personality. However, there's certain things which I'm just like, nah, that's just not going to happen because, you know, why are you trying to change something that doesn't need repairing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
change something that needs repairing rather than, you know, don't try and fix the dough recipe when it's been a winner since day one. And the tomato.
And I think what strikes me as well with while you're saying this as well is like and this is something I think is really important for anyone looking to get into any business really, let alone just food. But you've got to be confident in what you're bringing to the market.
Yeah,
you've got to believe in it. And if someone comes along and says, "Oh, I don't know about that," you know, if you're the sort of person, "Oh, yeah, you might be right. Maybe it's not the right thing to be bringing to market because you're not even confident in yourself." But you know, if you've got something that you're confident, firstly, it's gonna give you the energy to power through when things aren't going as well as you might hope.
Yeah.
And then secondly, you know, it's gonna give that's gonna be your thing. You know, if you've got something that you're doing it in your way, that's gonna be potentially what makes you different to everyone else. And it's important, I think, to have that confidence, but at the same time not be blinded and you know, silly about it and say, well, I'm not going to change anything even if I see it failing. But what you're selling, right? That's so important. And I think, you know, having that belief is just really important just for getting you through business in general, really, because how are you going to convince other people to like, you know,
of course. And that's when it's really important to get a good team. Do you know what I mean? You know, behind every winning championship and every winning champion team in sport, you've got to have a good team and a good structure.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about that, because I think that's an important thing as well, and it comes up time and time again on this podcast as well. It's like, what? So what? I mean, what? How do you sort of hire your team? How do you build a team that you know is right? Like, what is your hiring process? Well, I guess more so than that, like how do you manage your relationship with a team, and how do you build?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I'd probably been a little bit unusual how I went about this, you know, because when I first started and I opened up the restaurant, I opened up with a kid that didn't know how to cook and came as an apprentice and a pot washer, and a girl that wanted to become a journalist and had worked in a kitchen for 2 seconds, and just me.
Right.
And so, because I advertised for a chefs, but the initial idea was I'm the chef and I'm gonna do it, and they're just gonna I'm just gonna cook pizzas, and then they're just gonna do the salads and the bits and bobs, and and we'd all clean down together, kind of thing. It was kind of one of those situations.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, when we got into it, like the first 6 months were a blur to me. I can't remember them, if I'm honest. You know, it's just flat out. I was there till all hours in the morning, rolling dough. You know, and I had a set of twins at the time when I opened up the restaurant as well. And you just work through it and stuff. But in terms of the recruitment side of things, I knew that I needed to get better staff and a chef. And I felt I needed a chef straight away. So I advertised for a chef. and I actually managed to get a chef, and it was a really, really good chef, just a bit young. So, but I'm a big believer in opportunities. You have to give opportunities to individuals. So just because their CV doesn't say anything, or they, they've never had an opportunity in life to do any cooking, and they want to become a chef, most places would turn the door to them. Well, I'm not that sort of person, because I used to deal a lot with internships, and I understand that you have to give an opportunity to people, and it's down to you to how to manage them, mold them to where you want them to do. So I kind of molded everyone to how I want them to do things. A
Sure.
little bit as well. Don't get me wrong; it's not just all by myself. So I molded them into that, and then I had a kid knock on the door, being rejected everywhere he went, basically, no chef experience. And I said, listen, I got nothing for you because you can't afford you. And the Welsh government actually helped a little bit with funding with that.
Okay.
So I gave him like a job just cleaning. But then I realized actually he had a bit of a knack for food, because that's what he wanted. So he, as a success story is this really. He started cleaning the outback, which was a mess every day, to then pot washing, to then chef, then to head chef. Do you know what I mean? And I gave him that opportunity to do that.
Uh-huh.
The thing is one of those. I don't think any other place would have done that, if I'm honest. With no CV, no qualifications, no nothing. Whereas I believe.
What was it you saw? Because you must have seen. You saw something in that too. Because
first things first, he knocked on the door and came in. Do you know what I mean? Looking for a job, rather than just sending CVs, not following it up. I've been a bit old school about it. The problem is you lose a bit of personality there. But anybody who knocks on my door and comes and sees me and talks to me, so that was one person I did that. Then there was another kid living on the streets, basically, needed a job, was a good guy, so I gave him an opportunity and was solid.
Wow. So this was someone that was homeless.
Yeah, basically. Wow. So and then he went into shelter. Then he had his own place, and then he lost his place, and then eventually, unfortunately, got put into another shelter. And then it was just all got a bit too much for the job, this and everything. And I gave apprenticeships, to job center as well. So we took on a kid from the job center. Some worked out, some didn't work out. But it's kind of like sometimes you got to go for the rough to find someone. And then eventually, I said, listen, I said to Peter, so we need to start getting a bit more of a stronger team. Do you know what I mean? Because I realized straight away, actually, if I'm in the kitchen all the time, there's no way I can run the business. So the idea is to get me out of the kitchen as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things. Yeah, that's one of the dangers, isn't it? When I guess from a restaurant, certainly is, you become, you effectively got your own business, but you're actually working like in your business rather than on it. You're part of the machine rather than, overseeing everything and, sort of executing on your vision, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the situation you felt you kind of got yourself into.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. So I immediately I knew I needed to get that. So I had a good team. The problem is the team I had was a bit young, and I made mistakes as well. You make mistakes as you go along. But it was as, second year came in now, you realize straight away, I was like, right, we need to get more professional about this. So I felt I needed some guys which were, and what the problem is, what I've experienced through this whole process, I've experienced in my last job, working in education, is that, the most experienced guys with the best CVs, for me, have never been the best. The kid,
it's funny, isn't it? It's I think, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say it's funny because I think it's almost there seems to be less trust in the traditional sort of CV approach to recruiting these days than there used to be. People don't seem to have the same. I don't know if it's like because now things are just different. People don't necessarily need to go to school to prove themselves. I think people are realizing that now. You don't have to have a university degree to prove yourself in life. You can do it in other ways. But I don't know. Like, what's your opinion on that? I mean, why don't you go for those those sort of like impeccable CVs, because they must come in, right? But there's this decision in your head where you go.
I mean, listen, we put an advert out for a chef, and I got something like 180 applicants. Yeah, and I sort of like, I said, wow, 180. I was like, well, first of all, why am I going to get through all of these?
Right. Yeah.
And then we by luck, it was the case of one of my chefs already knew somebody and his recommendation, and I thought to myself, well, that's the best form of you know, one of your main guys. Like, so that's so we filled that. But I was going through some of these CVs, and there's just no personality behind it. There's no letter behind it. There's no information about that. It's just, I worked here, I did this, I did this, I did this. I'm like, I've got no interest in that. I'm about the personality. So that's what I like to do, is to bring somebody in on a trial if I get a feel for it. If somebody knocks on my door, calls me, I'll give them a trial, because from a simple conversation, because, you know, I know you shouldn't judge a book by its cover when you're looking at a CV, and because you don't know the person behind it.
Yeah.
And it becomes impersonal. But unfortunately, when you're really busy, you just can't go through all those CVs.
I mean, you do have to do. I think that's another thing as well. Is like, you know, you do have to do a bit more nowadays to stand out.
You do. Yeah, listen, you simply do. Like, do you know what I mean? I mean,
that's the way you got to remember, isn't it? You know, if there is an application list and there's 180 applicants, no one in their right mind is going to study every single one of those applicants. They're going to sift through them. They're going to find a few that they think are right, and it's the ones that stand out, the ones that do the things that no one else has done, that are going to be the things that, you know, strike you. You know.
Yeah, completely. Like, do you know what I mean? And, you know, I think about what I used to be like. You know, I used to be on the case, on the phone, going to the places where they train, speak to people, get myself in the groove. Do you know what I mean? It's constantly being proactive. I know it's a terminology that gets used a lot, but you have to be. Do you know what I mean? Because, you know, you've got to keep furthering yourself and keep on attacking it and being quite a little bit aggressive about stuff, because no one's ever going to give you a free ride. Do you know what I mean? It's as simple as that. So the recruitment is kind of like that, really. You know, I see what they're about, I see what they're like, and then I, you know, we do one-to-ones, so we speak to them each week, good, bad points and stuff, the guys we have now, and then try and develop them as we keep going. Do you know what I mean? And that's an ongoing process always. And then the good thing is now, for instance, you know, you've got a good team, which you can trust. That allows you then to develop areas of the business much more. So,
and did you? Well, I guess when you was building your team, because what I'm thinking is, I know from having a business myself, can be quite a struggle sometimes to release control of certain areas of the business.
Yeah, I've not had a problem with that at all. Releasing control in the right ways. I mean, things that need to be done in the right ways. As an example would be this. You know, one of my guys, which has worked the floor, he was like a floor manager, I suppose you called him, Jose. He'd been in me for nearly enough the beginning. I've just now made him restaurant manager, because he wants to further himself. So he's constantly reading, learning. I've put him on a management course. I put him on a level 3 hygiene, which he doesn't need to do because he's not a chef. I've got him working in the kitchen, so now he can make pizzas better than some of the chefs that we already got. So, you know, and he's, you know, the individual, he's pushing himself, and I'm pushing. But what I haven't done is I haven't given him stuff which is going to literally blow his head in like numbers, and so I'm spoon feeding him. You know, so I'm spoon feeding him stuff to help him.
We're investing in him, really.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Do you know what I mean? And listen, I'm no idiot. You know, like I said to him, you know, I want you to do best for yourself. So whatever you do in life to move forward, you know, if I can help you and more mentor you, then, you know, I feel like I've done a job. This happened to me in my life.
Yeah, so I think that's a great way to look at it, because I think too many people look at their staff as, you know, dog's bodies who can just help deliver their vision and line their pockets. And I think it's important, you know, and I think it's quite rewarding as well to look at your staff as, you know, how can I make this person the best person they can be? Because if they are the best person they can be, then guess what? They're going to be the best person that I need in my business as well.
Yeah, exactly. And then you know, it's difficult, see, because then like I made this mistake, and I'm sure other people will make the mistake. You know, is that you become a bit friendly then sometimes with some of your members of staff. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, and then that is never a good sign. Do you know what I mean? And then unfortunately, I had a situation where I had to get rid of 2 of my main core members of staff right from the beginning. They've been with me, which was a difficult choice to make, because they've been there from the beginning. But from a professional point of view, they had to go because they took the boundary, and I looked after them. And then now they regret that, and they wish they never, you know, sort of took the piss, I suppose, a little bit in some ways. And you know, that's the difficult part of running the business. You know, it's the man management and what you got to do. But then, you know, you just got to be strong and point and go, right, we do this and do that. You can do that. If you can't do that, why not? And then you train them. And if they still can't do after training, then maybe that's not for them. And it's really trying to pinpoint the strengths and weaknesses of each individual. And that's probably what I've been doing now for the last 8 months, is really pinpointing where things can be improved on, that allows me then to get more control to do what I want to do, is achieve, which is take us to the next level. And that's basically, so you have to relinquish stuff. You just have to, because if you don't do that, you know, and you know, but you still have to be on top of it all. Do you know what I mean? You still have to be checking stuff, going through stuff. Otherwise, if you just let people do it and you're never there, then you're a recipe for disaster. As well.
For sure. So I just want to sort of when you want to ask yourself, when you're looking back over all the stuff that's gone on since you opened, what would you say was like the biggest challenge, like signing that contract for the restaurant up to now? What's been like some of the biggest challenges, and how did you get over them as well, most importantly?
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, for the first start of it, you got to get over the fact, you're worrying about, what people are going to see your food. Do you know what I mean? That's why I responded, and I still do, and I will always do. I respond to every single review, because when I first started, I was really worried about, because it's your food at the end of the day, and you get a bit personal about it, but you want to make sure that they've enjoyed themselves.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's part of the enjoyment of, I mean, I cook a lot myself. I enjoy cooking food, and that's part of the enjoyment of it. Is firstly the making of it and the expression of it. It's actually the feedback.
Exactly.
Nothing worse when someone goes, "Oh, what is this?"
Yeah, and I know on top when they're paying for it, it makes it even worse. So that was always a bit of my. So I had to get over that little hurdle a little bit, but eventually then. It was more really about how the place got bigger and stuff. We got more popular and there was more demand. So it was like, wow, how are we going to? So it became more logistical and problem solving. And we need to get. So we took the upstairs part of the restaurant, nothing for seating, for just prep area, because it was just too small in there.
Yeah.
So it was part of that, but it was really, if I'm honest, the most difficult thing has been the whole. What's right in terms of costings, working with suppliers. When we first opened, suppliers didn't want to know me. Now they all want to know me. And I was just like, I find that really sad because, you're supposed to help the guy at the beginning,
Yeah,
then,
just like what you were saying with your staff, really. Yeah.
We don't, like as a company rule, we don't believe in credit. So nothing is ever on credit that we buy. Because it's a false sense of economy if you do that, and it's a slippery slope. So I was even going to the suppliers and listen, I don't want. He said, "Oh, we have to open an account." I was like, "Well, I don't want to open an account." I said, "I want a good structure of what you can offer me." Do you know what I mean, in terms of pay and costings? And it's only now that we're getting better that I can work on that aspect of it, and that is the most important part of this whole process, and it's been the most difficult part of the whole process.
So like the supply chain, essentially.
Yes, and making sure that, and then you're talking staff, and staff are fantastic, but fantastic staff come with a price, and staffing wages is always going to be one of your highest problems to a certain degree, and so that is managing the hours and managing that was difficult, and the whole balance of making money to breaking even to building and reinvesting. Do you know what I mean? I've taken nothing out of the company in Nor's Pete since we've all started. Nothing at all. We're not taking, I'm not taking a pay increase. I'm not done anything like that. We give an increase of wages to staff because I feel they need to be rewarded because, they're a really important, crucial part of the whole process. When we win these awards and stuff, I always say it's my visual realization of what's what. But I said, you're the guy who's cooking it. And I always say to them, when you're in the kitchen, I said, take a moment and stop and just have a look at the restaurant. I said, enjoy what you've just created. It's in my recipes, but you're the one actually making it. That's like, and some of your specials are already there. Yeah. So that's the important side of things, but that's the staff has probably been a difficult part as well, because, you got to work, manage and stuff. And, it's new and there's all different things and that, but it's the whole really nailing down everything. You got to nail down every single part from your stock take to your costings to the general day-to-day hours, what hours we when we first opened, we opened all hours. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then I looked at it and like, there's no point opening at these hours because we don't have the footfall. And then, it's kind of like, and so you got to be really, flexible. Do you know what I mean? And so that's, everything and learn. I suppose that's probably been the hardest thing is just to really be on top of it.
And is this all this stuff that have you pretty much learned all of these skills that you've got now running a restaurant as a restaurant owner that you've got now? Is this stuff you've pretty much learned on the job?
On the job, 100%. The best advice I can give anyone, and me and Pete talk about it, you can bring a consultant in, you can bring somebody who's worked in restaurants, you can bring anybody who worked, whatever it is and whatever advice they're going to give you, there's no point even taking any of it because that's the easy road. you've got to literally learn every single part yourself, everything. When we did the margins ourselves, it was like a mind-blowing experience. Do you know what I mean? When we learned the costings together, and people, it's like, wow, okay. When we looked at the costings of what the cheese and how much we're putting on, and we start measuring it a bit more accurately, and it's like, wow, okay, that's a game changer. And you can't do everything at once. You just can't do everything at once. Do you know what I mean? It's difficult, and obviously on top of that, you got to do your receipts and all these other things in the background. And obviously not just that, you've got customers and you've got staff and you got, there's a whole, I call it, there's a noise all around you. Yeah. But the signal is the fact you got to get stuff done in a certain pragmatic way. So, and the only way you're going to get it done is if you learn yourself. So everything me and Pete have done, what I've done is until you do it yourself and learned it and listen, I made mistakes. God, right at the beginning, it was crazy what I was paying for some stuff. Do you know what I mean? You learn, and I learned more from that. And if you're talking Ben from the beach to Ben in the first 6 months to Ben now, is like we're totally different people and a totally different idea of where we want to do what things should be done. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So obviously over the years, I guess you've probably gone, you've gone from coming in as a complete new restaurant owner, and you've learned so much. What are some of the habits that you use now, either within your business or yourself, that you feel are really critical to your success on like a daily, weekly, ongoing basis?
Research on food, for starters, because we're a food restaurant. So I'm constantly checking and looking and coming up with new ideas and putting things together and testing them and working out ways to utilize products that we already have. Yeah. So we're not buying new products and use them in different ways. So we're maximizing all the products that we've got. Make one, and the numbers don't lie. Do you know what I mean? And so those are the sort of things I really completely needed to do that.
It's all like the research and development part of the business, really, effectively. And it's funny because I've read a lot of, I can't remember what article it was that I read recently, but it was talking about companies nowadays put a lot more money into research and development than they do into things like marketing, for example. Pushing and driving the business forward and taking it to new levels, like in terms of the food, the service, the experience. I think it's becoming more and more important because this marketplace, like we were saying earlier, is getting more, it's so interesting now, it's so vibrant. There's so many different startup food businesses, food trucks, restaurants. I think you do need to have maybe paying a lot of more attention now. I think you need to adapt a lot quicker, and I think there's so much more opportunity, but unless you're invested in that side of things and you're paying attention to what's going on and what the latest food trends are and all that stuff, I think it can become very, very dangerous place to have a food business as well.
Yeah, it's a bit of everything, isn't it? I think it's like it's a bit like it's a bit like with the food and the drink and everything, and they all say don't indulge, you need a bit of everything, don't you? And it's a bit like when you make a soup, you can't just stick tomatoes together, you got to put a bit of everything in it to make it taste nice. I mean, it's kind of a bit like that in a lot of ways. So in the marketing and the social media and the Instagram, the visualization, and you got to go with what's happening. You got to be a bit current as well. Do you know what I mean?
Well, something I noticed particularly with you, specifically more than any other, probably maybe by one other restaurant owner I've spoken to of late, you're doing a really good job of putting yourself out there, your story, and you've got videos of you like doing making the sauce. I saw on one of them doing cooking some pizzas, opening up, showing behind the scenes of the kitchen, and not enough people are doing that now. And I think the people that do that are going to benefit massively in years to come. If you can be consistent, tell your story. People aren't just buying into your brand now; they're buying into you, your personality, your passion. You're able to communicate, that passion that I guess your family might once have seen around the dinner table when you're doing your pizzas, time or whenever it was, that you can now put that across online. You never used to be able to do that unless you went up to someone who's coming to your restaurant, which you can do a little bit maybe during an evening. But you've now got this opportunity. I think everyone's got this opportunity to get in front of the camera, show people the things that they might not see as a everyday customer, and engage them in all these new ways. And that was something that really struck me that you're doing. You're actually doing that. You're literally doing that at the moment. You're putting the content out there. You're showing behind the scenes. You're having a laugh with it. You're having fun with it. And I think how How much effect do you feel that has on your business and the
No,
growth?
it's massive. It's huge. Like I can't explain it. I mean, there's times when I've done posts and stuff, and you'll see from the sales of that specific pizza that I put up. Do you know what I mean?
So you can really see it, like in that.
Yeah,
I think that's such an
instant.
important.
It's instant, and bookings as well. You notice on the bookings, if I spend a bit of time doing a really good story on a dish and marinating that, you notice a trend that things go up, and also you'll see the hits on the website will change. So it's always it's linked basically in a nutshell. It really is, and I think it's important because it's current. Are always on their phones. People check their Instagram every 5 seconds. It's just, there'll be a new thing in the future, and then you've got to constantly adapt and evolve. I think the way you're talking about the old restaurants, they just stay there, do nothing about it, never change the menu, just kept what they are, just being who they are. No social media, you never knew what was going on. You just feel like, and not just that, people are a bit more aware now these days of what they're paying and what they're buying. And they got, and they're like, well, why am I going to spend money in a place which is,
Basically.
But yeah, why would I when I can go somewhere? There's there's a vibe, there's the music's cool, great service, food's always fantastic. It's a bit like, what would I want when I go to a place? I want to go into a place when as soon as you walk in, like, oh, there's a vibe here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And then you've checked them out on social media. You've seen the owner passionately talking about the ingredients they're using and showing you.
And if you're as nuts as I am, you'll have checked the menu about 15 times, and I'm like, I would have changed my mind about 4 times for you to get there. Do you know what I mean? It borders on insanity, really. Do you know what I mean? I'm talking about what I'm having for dinner when I've just had breakfast. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
But it is that, and so I've tried to replicate what I would want. Do you know what I mean? A cool vibe, enjoyment vibe, and somebody where you can literally switch off. And do you know what was interesting actually? And I never noticed it, but I had noticed it, was in my restaurant, was it was Sil's wife. She said to me, she hadn't come to the restaurant at all. She came over for the first time and had the pizzas. And she said to me, do you know what I noticed about your restaurant, Ben? She said, what? I said, not one person is on their phone. Everybody's interacting and having a chat.
Wow, that is an achievement.
You know what? Right. And then she said, I was like, nah, since I was like, she's bloody right. And it is a cozy little place. You are quite intimate. So, so even though the odd person checks their phone, but there's never anybody on their phone. They're actually in. And I think it's that vibe that I got what I wanted. Now, that's difficult because it could have gone anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I suppose the key thing is the thing as well with that is like, why do people check their phone? Usually because they're bored.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
That's kind of creating that environment where people are bored, and obviously that helps with the company. I'm sure they're if you haven't got but I think these kind of small vibey atmospheres really can help with stuff like that. And again, it goes going back to it again. It's these kind of small sort of inviting little places seem to be a lot more popular now than they used to be. Used to be quite happy to go to like the big chain, like I said, TGI Fridays. I'll use that example again. Like people just aren't interested in that stuff. That cookie cutter, big celebratory restaurant kind of atmosphere. It's just it's not cool anymore. It's not funky.
No, I totally agree with you. Do you know what I mean? It is gone like that, and do you know what I mean? And Cardiff is getting more and more like that. It's it's still not quite where. They're still going to the town centre and it's all chains. Do you know what I mean? There's no soul in that really. Do you know what I mean? I rarely go in there for for food or anything like that. So I'll go off around the other places and stuff if I go out.
Yeah, people just I think people just want to explore now. I think it's a great time for if people are looking to execute on an idea they've got for a food business. It's a great time to do it. But I think you do need to be doing it in absolutely the right way, making sure you're researching the marketplace, making sure that you adapt to the trends that you can do. There's a lot of things I think as a startup business you can do much better than the bigger brands. What you don't want to do is try and go in and do the same thing these big brands are doing. If you can come up with an interesting concept, it's a great time to do it. And especially if you're prepared to put yourself out there on social media. If you're prepared, like there's a restaurant owner that I'm following at the moment on social media, and he's a young guy, probably in his mid-20s, and he's I think he was working in had a food truck or something like that before, and he's kind of gone on this journey to start his restaurant, probably in a similar way to kind of where you went. And he's documented the entire thing on Instagram. Like every day, he's on his phone, on the Instagram stories, taking photos of the new kitchen gone in. And he's gone from having just like a few hundred followers, and I've followed him the whole way. He's got thousands of followers now. They're coming up to opening time. Guess what that's going to do for his brand when they open? He's now got thousands of people. Like they've got like a launch night coming up, and people are engaging with him. People are sending in like praise, like, and all of that has been created from him holding a phone in front of himself, and just sharing what's going on. And I think so many small business owners and restaurant owners and all sorts of other business owners just aren't doing that enough now, and that's such a powerful way.
Yeah, it's huge. And the ideas I've got now for like what I want to do for the website and stuff, and have the links with like the channels and showing how we do dough and teaching some stuff for that, and just some interaction of like all that sort of stuff. It's basically what I've got a bit more time now, so that's my next for the new year. It's going to be my development for stuff like that for the website.
Yeah, sure. No, like I mean, yeah, like in the marketing world, like I've worked with restaurants before, and when we've suggested things like, oh, why don't you like show people a recipe that you do for a particular dish? Oh no, we don't want to show them that, because if we show people that, then they'll cook it at home and won't want to come to the restaurant. And it's just like,
yeah, do you know it's so funny? So I've had this discussion many a times, and so I always say this: you can take my recipe. I've got no problem showing you how I do my stuff. You can take it at home. You can cook it at home. I said, but you just don't have a massive firewood oven. You don't know how. You don't have the proofing fridges in order to get it to where we need it. You don't have the understanding of how it should get to. Even chefs that come in is still struggling of the understanding of. So it'll never ever get. But what it does, it gets people to do it.
What it does, I think it gets your name in places where it wouldn't usually be. Your name is now, if I don't want to go out for the restaurant on a Monday night, you can try and convince me all you want. I'm not going to a restaurant. But if I think, oh, actually, I saw that recipe from Ben the other day, maybe I'll cook that at home tonight because I don't want to go to the restaurant. All of a sudden now, you haven't lost out on a customer. You've got me brand in my head, in my kitchen on a Monday night with no other restaurant.
Yeah, completely. And listen, I'm all for people cooking at home and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's important, and trying different things and learning and stuff. You know what I mean? That's the fun part of it. We've had loads of people come into the restaurant now and say, "Oh, I tried cooking with the pizza. It's not quite the same as yours, though, mate." But it's kind of like that. You can't expect somebody to go out and eat out every single night, and don't expect to see the same customers every single.
It's just such an important way of looking at it. It's like how with social media, it's not about. Yeah, obviously you might have like your secret sauce or certain things that are kind of your little thing that you've got, but in terms of sharing stuff and getting encouraging people to do things like cook your recipes at home and stuff, all you're doing is you're just creating more awareness of your brand, your products and you as a person, which is always going to come back and repay, because even if you cook a pizza at home, it doesn't mean that you're not ever going to want to eat out again. There's something you get from eating out is the fact you don't have to do any washing up.
There's loads of things like that. You know what I mean? It's like, I always use the Gordon Ramsay or the Jamie Oliver. How many recipes that somebody will have tried their recipes and cooked their recipes, and and it might turn out delicious.
Some people succeed as well.
But it ain't gonna be the same as if you gone to the restaurant. It's just so.
And that's the thing, these guys have been doing it for years. The biggest chefs, they've been putting recipe books out whilst they've got restaurants in like London or whatever city it is. It's nothing new, but I think it's now just so much easier to be out there. Never before we've been in an age where you come along, start a restaurant and get hours and hours of content out on social media for people to view instantly. It's just it's just an incredible time, and I think these tools are really valuable to people, and they're just not used enough. But that's something that really did strike me, the amount of stuff you're doing on that front. So have you guys got like a YouTube channel or anything like that, or is it more Facebook?
It's Facebook and the Instagram I've been doing, but that's the next step. It is for the bear me a second, mate. That's the next step basically for the website, is the YouTube stuff.
So start building up that profile more.
Start with that profile. Basically. Because I think it's huge, to be honest. With doing that is in the future, because like I said, with all the recipes and all that sort of stuff, I think I really want to Sorry about this, mate.
That's all right, no worries.
So yeah. So basically is showcasing a little bit about what we're doing. And because I just, it's cool, like, do you know what I mean? And it's fun, and I've got some ideas, and and as an example, we've got a kid now working on the floor for us, and he's in his last year doing digital media and stuff in university, and he wants to get involved with us. He loves the place, loves working there, and he wants to work and create something for us, and that's cool. So we'll do something with him, and and it just brings a bit of fun to the whole element, and not just that, with chefs as well. Sometimes the four walls, it's hard work, chefs. And so I think they get involved, and it takes them out their little part of the whole process, and part of the family, and part of the videos and stuff. So and that's pretty much, I think, is key.
So can we expect some kind of recipe book or something in the long run? Maybe is that something?
Yeah, for sure. Listen, I'd love to do something like that. Do you know what I mean? This is something we've talked about, me and Pete. Then definitely for 2020, there's going to be some new things coming onto the website. We designed the web majorly. We just launched the online takeaway system, which we're really pushing for now, because that's a big part of a business model as well. But
is that something that you're not? It's not like you're part of like Deliveroo or something like that. That's actually your own.
No. Do you want me to talk about that side of it?
Yeah, well, we can get into a little bit. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously another interesting trend that's going on now, isn't it? Is people getting the Deliveroo to deliver to home and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I'm completely anti all that. So
right.
Because I like to keep control of my product. So I believe in my own driver, having my own knowledge of what we're about as a brand, as people. So when I know that the food's getting delivered properly, so what we did is we designed our own online system for our web designer.
Okay.
So we're in control. Plus these fees they charge on the other ones are astronomical.
Well, that is the thing, isn't it? That's always the thing with these kind of.
You'll never make any money as a business if you use Deliveroo or stuff like that. It's just impossible.
No, I mean, I think they kind of sell it, correct me if I'm wrong, but they kind of sell it more on the kind of awareness side of things. They're more people.
Yeah.
Well, you're going to be in more.
Yeah, and it's a false lie if you ask me. So
I suppose it's a good way. I mean, I guess it's not a bad way to actually test the deliverability of your food. If you're thinking about maybe in the future creating a delivery arm to your.
100%. I mean, listen, this is what I did. We signed up to Just Eat.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
To get some knowledge. Do you know what I mean? We didn't go in this blind. And I employed a delivery driver that had knowledge on delivery for pizzerias. Do you know what I mean?
Got it. Yeah.
So bounced off each other, but very, 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 very quickly we knew that was such a bad idea to stay with them, and then we just pushed it off.
Yeah. No, I think it's funny, Deliveroo, because it's like it's one of these companies that are very influential, and but they're kind of putting a bit of a monopoly on the market, I think, in some ways.
Yeah.
It's like what Uber have done with taxis, right? It's the same
yeah. Exactly.
Crowdsourcing, delivery, crowdsourcing cabs, and I think it's another interesting trend that we're seeing at the moment. It's like how is this all going to pan out? I don't know. Because on one hand, Deliveroo, they do a great job of now I can order food from restaurants that I like down the road that I can get orders from.
For the consumer, it's fantastic.
But for the restaurants, they're really squeezing them, and by having that power.
So the question is this: do you know what I mean? If you want awareness, I suggest you do something else to get your awareness. That's my personal opinion. Work on your own pattern, on your own plan, because what you're doing is you're just sinking money to something that could be sunk into yourself. So rather than us paying all these fees every week and every month to taking out of our bottom end, we pumped it back into the business to get a web designer to develop our online. And then it means then there's a problem. I want to change something. We're in control.
Yeah.
To change something online or something, and you can't get your personality across either.
No. Well, I think it just comes down to one thing, doesn't it? It's like people like convenience.
Yeah.
Familiarity and convenience. So I've got a Deliveroo app on my phone. It's like, okay, I can go Deliveroo, don't have to think about it, and it's coming. And I suppose that's the challenge of now. If you're trying to set up, if you want to do the delivery, you have to make it as as convenient as something like Deliveroo.
That's the side we're working on now. I always say we want it to be as easy as Amazon. If you can get to that point, we've made it. Because, but this is the difficult part, because obviously, there's, people online, there's a system of weights, and there's a few things you got to keep tuning it, and we keep evolving. I'm constantly on the messaging my web designer about stuff, and he's the guy. Him and his partner, they designed the website, also designed the logo for me, and they've been part of the process really, and I think the Dofro has become part of their little baby as well in their own digital world for them. Do you know what I mean? And because I think they want to go on their own. So it's funny how to see different people grow with the whole process as well, which is the nice side of the restaurant business.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, we're coming towards the end of the conversation now, but if you could give some advice to kind of anyone who's sitting there listening to this going, I fancy a bit of this, I fancy starting a restaurant, after all the all the things you said, they still fancy starting a restaurant. And what advice would you give to those people now? What would you sort of say to them considering entering?
Well, it's funny actually, because I've had a few people come up to me recently asking me for this same advice, and the first thing I always say, what have you got? What's the idea? Do you know what I mean? What's the product? What have you got? Is it any good? Because if it's half mediocre, of course you can take a half mediocre product and turn it into whatever you want it to. Do you know what I mean?
So I suppose that's coming back to a bit of the confidence thing that we spoke about before, being confident. Have you got an idea you're confident about, right?
Yeah, and the idea that basically the advice I gave him is if you cooked it, if you started it, if you learned about it, and then and then I said you need to trial it, see if people like it, and then I said the only way it's going to come from the heart, the passion, and the drive. So you need to have that, and you need to know that you're putting yourself in for a hell of a ride.
Yeah,
because it's tough. There's this is my first night I opened to the restaurant. I went outside and I nearly cried. I'm not gonna lie. I rang out my partner. I said, what the hell have I done? Those are my words. And she goes, what do you mean? I said, I think this is completely nutty. But what happens is, like anything, any big problem, it's never a big problem. You break it down and you find solutions. You just become a problem solver and find solutions, come up with ideas. And it's satisfying once you've done that, and it's satisfying when you've done certain things which hit the golden nugget, and you can see that people are really enjoying it, and then you start getting the feedback, and then you start seeing, and there's a bit of a snowballing effect. You know what I mean? And then about momentum. So you got to keep the momentum going. Never let go. You've got to keep on it all the time, pushing forward, changing things, keeping it up, being adjustable, being understanding. Managing that's probably the best advice I can give. Is you've just got to be constant, and everything you can do, you've got to learn yourself, because everything that has worked for us since we've learned everything ourselves has made us a better restaurant, a better workforce, and a better overall entity. And listen, there's still things we need to do better. It's always, I'll have a conversation with Pete, yeah, we need to do that. But before we have a conversation, yeah, we do that, and then you leave it a couple of weeks, 3 weeks. Now it's a conversation, yeah, we do that, and then we get on it straight away. And if it's super important, you've got to do it straight away.
So you taking action on these, even down to actually starting a restaurant. Like, you're a prime example. If you went into this, you didn't have correct if you're wrong, but you didn't have a clue what you was doing opening a restaurant.
No. Hey, listen, I had no idea whatsoever what's what.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that there's a beauty in that, but you did it. You went and you did it. And I think a lot of people will sit there in your position with a lack of knowledge of something and always be scared to cross past this line and think, I'm not good enough to do this. I've never run a restaurant before. I've not opened a restaurant before. Who the hell am I to come along here and put my name in?
Yeah, you've got to do it. And another thing I've noticed as well is that you've got to really make it to what, because there's some things I'm good at and there's things I'm bad at. Do you know what I mean? And I've noticed there's a friend of mine actually, which has got a restaurant himself, and it doesn't do too well, unfortunately. And it's because the place just looks terrible. And I said to Mrs. May, I said, the place doesn't look right. You've not accustomed it to the area it's in. I said, you've got nothing to do about your food, because your food's fantastic. I said, but you're just not accustomed to what it should be. And he said, I feel uncomfortable being in here, kind of thing. So you changed it since you did that. So, but he was very much my view, my view, my view, my view, my view. And I think he'd taken a little bit, not my view, my view, my view, my view. And somebody said, and taken a bit of, as you know, then he probably wouldn't have struggled to begin with. So sometimes, you know, you gotta listen to other people as well, as much as be super confident, you know. And I was lucky with Pete, is that me and Pete speak to each other every single day. I speak to him sometimes more than I speak to my partner or my kids, it feels like. But there's a complete understanding and honesty between each other, and we speak about stuff. So if you've got a business partner, there's a reason why there's your business partner. Do you know what I mean? So you bounce ideas off. If you're on your own, then that's difficult. You've got to go to people around you and not listen to everything. Of course not.
Yeah.
Just go with your gut feeling.
Yeah, but you've got, I mean, yeah, I think the core actually comes down to taking information on board and then making a decision and moving forward. And
yeah, you've got to.
A lot of people stay at that decision phase and go, "Oh, there's this idea, that idea. I'm not just not going to do anything."
That's the worst thing you can ever do. You've got to go right in it, because if you hang around, you wasted. You know, I always use this. Say, you know, I've just wasted 6 hours of my life talking about this. I don't have 6 hours. Do you know what I mean? I take life very preciously. Do you know what I mean? The 6 hours is a lot of time you're wasting on anything. So you have to be sometimes goes, right, okay, yeah, okay, what's that? Okay, let's go with it.
Yeah, and I think there's a thing about like failing fast as well, right? Yeah, maybe you will get it wrong, but if you do that quickly, then you'll get to where you need to get to quicker, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. You've got to listen. We made mistakes right at the beginning with certain things, 100%, and it was only by doing them and being reactive very quickly and changing them, and going, you know, actually put my hands up. I didn't do that well at all. Actually, I could have done so much better. Why didn't I do that better? Do you know what I mean? You know, it's the hindsight. Do you know what I mean? The wonderful. I wish I could go back and slap him in the face.
Yeah.
You know, Ben, 2017. Do you know what I mean? Bash. Why do you do that? You know. But you listen. You learn. You understand it. You mature. You understand it. Like, you know, you asked me when I first opened the restaurant. It was a bit of a joke, really, in the sense of what it is now. That's the only way I can describe it.
Yeah.
Is, you know, I feel like a restaurateur now. I didn't at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I think that's the thing. You know, you have to take this path yourself. You can get all the advice in the world, but actually, all the things you think are going to be a problem when you start, it's going to be something else that comes along. And I think again,
there's always something.
Just get on with it. You know, get on with it. I think is the key message here, and just move forward. Try and move forward in the best way you can.
100%. Because there's always something. There's always something that's going to get in the way. Always. It's either, you know, a late night or kids or a friend or, you know, a workforce not turning up. There's always going to be, or you couldn't get the license, or, you know, there's going to be something. Yeah. Planning took a bit longer, or the builder didn't do something quite right, or the flu's broken, got to get the flu. There's always going to be something that happens.
Yeah.
Just got to ride above that. And like, you got to deal with it. You got to put them into sections and then go bam, bam. That's what I do. But I've become more forgetful about these little things these days because of it.
Yeah, there's only so much you can fit into that.
Do you know what? There's only so much you can fit in there, honestly. If I don't write it down now, if I don't, like, if my partner says something to me, I don't write it down, or it doesn't send me a message on my calendar, I'll forget about it.
Oh yeah, don't get me started there. I'll often apparently reply to things and then an hour later be like, I said that to you. Did you? Oh.
Yeah. Bonkers, isn't it? Nah.
So I mean, finally then, what's next for the Dofra? I mean, where do you see sort of taking this venture? What can we look out for in the not too distant future?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, this is the question on everybody's lips at the moment. When's the second one?
What are you doing?
When's the second one opening? I mean, we'll definitely looking to do a second one, but I personally want to do another year of what we're doing right now, do it well, and create a blueprint even stronger for the second one.
Right.
Because where we are now is not where. Listen, we're going in the right direction. Since we started, we've gone like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm a big believer that there's still so much more can be done to make it better, to make the second one easier. So the blueprint now, what I'm trying to create with staffing training, staffing costs, staffing information, how we price things to simplify it. So everything's done like through an iPad system.
Okay, you're right. You're just taking things a bit more patiently. It's just still trying to learn as much as possible.
100%, because you know I'm not in a rush. Do you know what I mean? You know, me and Pete not in a rush, but we need to. You know, we want to start making things a bit more like lucrative in the sense, of course. But that's what I want to do, and he feels with me on that. Things can change very quickly. I've seen that already. Do you know what I mean? 1 minute me and people are like, no, we shouldn't do that. And the next thing, bang, we've done it. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of can go like that as well. So yeah, definitely second one. We're looking at the takeaway system, the takeaway, an idea of us just doing a hub where we just become takeaway only for firewood pizzas.
Right.
And obviously the online stuff, which is huge, which I'm working on, and that's basically where we're at the moment. And that's, the recipe book.
And the recipe book, yeah.
Because I got some banging recipes for loads of different things.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'll certainly be. I'll certainly be using some of them myself.
Yeah, but it's because it's not just pizzas we do. Do you know what I mean? It's like branching out. It's a plywood oven, not a pizza oven.
That's very true. Yeah, there's so many things you can do with that, right? I mean, pizza's the first one that comes to mind. But
we cooked it. We do buffalo wings, cook them in the grill. And I had a chef say to me the other day, just to last before we go, we come to an end. He said, "I've cooked your wing recipe at home. Every single time, they just do not taste the same as if I've cooked them in Bruce."
Yeah.
And it's just, it's because it's just a different way. Do you know what I mean? And that's going back onto the whole last part of the conversation that we had.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah, so unless someone buys a Bruce, they've got no chance of cooking a pizza.
Yeah. Exactly.
Awesome, man. Well, it's been such a great conversation. I really appreciate you being sort of so open and sort of telling your story. I'm sure people are going to be interested in finding out more about you guys if they don't know already. So, what's the website, social media channels? Where can people find you?
Yeah, it's www.thedoughthrower.com, and the same for the Facebook, Instagram, thedoughthrower.com, and Twitter as well.
Wicked stuff, man. So thanks for everyone for listening. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. And
thanks for having me, mate. Yes, honor. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to Bite Britain. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Bite Britain, and also subscribe to us and watch the video version of this interview on YouTube so you can get updates on future releases and, more importantly, exclusive opportunities to win prizes from our awesome guests.